Every 3 months, I host a €50 budget commander tournament. These are always a lot of fun and very competitive. Now, I know that there is great appeal to building powerful commander decks on a budget. And to be frank, you won't find anything stronger than our decks here. That's mostly because we've been doing this for a while. Over 2 years of tournaments, our 12th event is coming up. We have a lot of practice tuning commander decks to be the strongest they can be within a strict €50 restriction. So let me tell you about our 3 most recent tournament-winning decks. Eluge, the Shoreless Sea, won our 9th tournament held on the 7th of September 2025. Eluge, the Shoreless Sea is mono-blue, costs 4 mana, and has power toughness equal to the islands we control. Whenever it enters or attacks, we put a flood counter on target land. That land becomes an island in addition to its other types. Eluge also reduces the cost of the first instant or sorcery spell we cast each turn by 1 blue mana for each land we control with a flood counter on it. Importantly, this cost reduction also applies to the colored pips of spells. This means Eluge can even cost reduce spells like Counterspell or Essence Flux. This is a control deck. Its goal is to get Eluge into play quickly, ideally on turn 3, using 2 mana ramp like Arcane Signet, Sapphire Medallion, and much worse options even, Sky Diamond, Silvermere, and Ornithopter of Paradise. A fast fish allows quick gathering of flood counters, and flood counters are essential to our long-term plan. Whether or not this is possible depends on the specifics of the game. Sometimes a quick Eluge is sensible because there are no turbo decks at the table and the other players are busy building their own resources. Or we might have protection available. Even just a single flood counter makes Spell Pierce, Dispel, Disrupt, and Offer You Can't Refuse, Show Up, and Magic Damper free. Essence Flux too, and that immediately gives us a second counter and access to proper counter magic. Counterspell, Remand, Loose Focus. Loose Focus is especially interesting. It has an optional additional cost that lets us duplicate it by pumping more mana into it. Mana that is also reduced by Eluge, so these kinds of spells scale very well into the later stages of the game. However, other times Eluge needs to play slower, more carefully. A fast fish would only bait into action or give our opponents an opportunity as we tap out. We need to be careful in finding our window. Once the fish is on the board, we always want to attack with it. Attacks give flood counters, and flood counters win the game. Luckily, Eluge grows big very quickly. But sometimes that's not enough, and we need to take a more brute force approach. Gigadrows and Bayin Vale, and don't know if that's how you pronounce that, I'm sorry, Bayin? Bayin? I don't know. These cards get our opponent's blockers out of the way and can also be used defensively. From here, it's a test of patience and threat assessment. We want to cast an instant on every player's turn to maximize the benefits we get from our cost reduction. At first, this will require us to be careful. We don't want to overextend our resources and end up caught without interaction. But eventually, mana will seem like a distant memory, a concept we have become unburdened by. That's when the fish becomes unstoppable. We play on every player's turn, always ready to stop win attempts, fish removal, or overly disruptive stacks. We have counterspells, of course, but also nasty targeted removal like Cyber Conversion, which more often than not permanently deletes a commander. If our interaction isn't needed, then we instead focus on drawing cards. Impulse, Quick Study, Confounding Riddle. Pulse of the Grid digs us out of a card deficit caused by interaction. Eventually, we begin splicing Everdream onto all of our spells to give everything additional card draw. We are not here to win quickly, but inevitably. This deck doesn't play a lot of creatures. It's, in a weird way, a bit of a Voltron deck. Everything revolves around Eluge, and Eluge doesn't interact with creatures. Still, there are some that are worth including. Wavebreaker Hippocamp, the Reality Chip, and Archmage Emeritus all provide more and more card advantage, helping us maintain our stranglehold. Hullbreaker Horror is a 1-card win condition that fights through everything, and Kitsa Autoball Elite and Archaeomancer are our infinite enablers. Those infinites are a bit complex though. The goal with either is to create infinite extra turns, so we need an extra turn spell. We play a couple, Karn's Temporal Sundering, Part the Water Whale, and Walk the Aeons. Keep in mind that this is a strict budget deck, hard limited to €50 or less, so we have to be a bit more open-minded. Although I should briefly mention that all of the lists I'm showing you today were €50 at the time of their tournament and have since then experienced some price fluctuation. I think this one goes for around €52 right now. Either way, extra turns. Kitsa goes infinite by us casting an extra turn, which we then target with our own Narset's Reversal. Casting 2 spells triggers Kitsa's prowess twice, and she now has enough power to tap to copy one of our spells on the stack. We copy the Narset's Reversal and aim the new Narset's Reversal at the original one. This returns Narset's Reversal to our hand and also creates a new copy of Narset's Reversal, which we point at the extra turn spell, bouncing it too back into our hand and copying it. We then let the extra turn spell resolve, ending the sequence with an extra turn, and both the extra turn spell and Narset's Reversal back in our hand so we can do it again next turn. The Archaeomancer lines are funky too. For this we want Archaeomancer, an extra turn spell, and either Riptide Laboratory or Capsize. Play the extra turn, get it back with Archaeomancer, and then bounce Archaeomancer back into our hand with Riptide Laboratory or a bought back Capsize. Mystic Sanctuary can act as an Archaeomancer replacement for the Capsize line. Both of these strategies require huge amounts of mana and would be entirely unviable in most other decks. But that's what Eluge does. It turns these extremely expensive powerhouse cards into free spells. Once we are in an extra turns loop, Eluge finishes the game by simply attacking until everybody is dead. And we don't even need to go infinite for that. Even just 1 or 2 extra turns is usually such an enormous leap ahead in resources that the game is won. Fish Beatdown is ultimately the win con that carried this deck to its tournament victory. Winning one of our tournaments is no easy feat. Doing so requires high performance throughout 5 rounds of intense Commander. Having a strong deck is of course an essential part of the journey, but there's actually one aspect that I think is much more unifying for tournament winners: experience. Taking the time to test, to learn, to encounter strange situations. That's much more important than just having the strongest deck, whatever that means. You can find all of the deck lists from today's video on the website I built for our tournaments, budgetcommander.de. It's a German domain, but the website is all in English. Over there I gathered all of our tournament-winning deck lists and other deck lists that were impressive, and I also created a little tier list of budget commanders, and I made our entire rule set and the spreadsheet I use for our tournaments available. If you want to run your own budget tournaments, everything you need is on the website. I actually had a very pleasant surprise sometime last week when a fella from Spain contacted me and told me that they ran a budget tournament using the website, and they had a lot of fun and plan to do it again. I just think that's neat, and I want to point out that you could do that too. I didn't coordinate with them ahead of time. All of the stuff you need is just on the website. It's right there. You can just read through it and you'll be fine. If you appreciate my efforts in community building, it would be fantastic if you could support me directly on Patreon. There's a link in the description. I also post lots of bonus content on Patreon, including budget stuff, if that speaks to you. Oh, and please give this video a thumbs up. My favorite, Sami, Wildcat Captain, won our 10th Budget Commander tournament held on the 7th of December 2025. This one was me. Sami, Wildcat Captain, is a 6-mana Boros 4/4 with double strike and vigilance. They also give all of our spells affinity for artifacts, meaning they cost 1 less to cast for each artifact we control. At first glance, Sami seems quite similar to the fish. They're both cost reduction commanders after all, but in practice they play very differently. Eluge needs to slowly build its flood counters, which give it more and more resources every turn, whereas Sami's cost reduction is much more explosive. Rather than a gradual value engine, Sami is a kill button. This is a storm deck that has one goal: play Sami and win the game in that same turn. We need artifacts in play. It doesn't matter where they are, just that they are artifacts. Mana rocks make sense, they let us get to Sami quicker and they become rituals once Sami makes them free. Then there are also eggs. Cards like Alchemist's Vial, Sleeper Dart and Golden Egg. These don't really do anything, but they are artifacts and they draw us a card when they enter. They give us a way to spend mana while building up to our win condition without needing to commit anything valuable to the board. Summon GF Ifrit and Cerberus, Wall of Omens, Dragon's Rage Channeler and Stormkiln Artist. Similar to Eluge, this deck hardly plays creatures, but for a different reason. Eluge only cost reduces instants and sorceries, so it just doesn't really interact well with creatures. Sami doesn't have that problem, they cost reduce everything. We could play creatures if we wanted to, but with Sami, spending mana on creatures feels a bit pointless. Any chip damage we deal doesn't matter, we'll win all at once anyways, and we are planning on slamming a board wipe or two to slow down our opponent's development. Playing creatures only to kill them ourselves? That's just not a good use of resources. Budget Commander is different from Commander's regular competitive format, CEDH, in that there are very few ways to win out of nowhere. Nearly every strategy requires at least some level of board buildup, Sami included. We need a bunch of artifacts. This means that board wipes have a real role and purpose within the format. Resetting our opponent's development is almost certain to buy a turn or two. Similarly, well-aimed targeted removal goes a long way. This deck is patient, even a bit slow. We're not planning to win before turn 6, and turn 6 is optimistic, so we play a good chunk of interaction. I was very specific in my selection. Budget Commander does have viable beatdown decks, and those will often go to great lengths to protect their board. When I play a sweeper, I do want it to sweep, I don't want it to get caught up in indestructible nonsense. Beyond the Quiet, Sunfall, Farewell, Avatar's Wrath, and Spectacular Pileup, each of these is nearly impossible to avoid. Out of our selection, only Blasphemous Act can be protected against, but it's so efficient that it's worth the risk. I chose our targeted removal with equal care. Either very efficient, Unwanted Remake, Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolt, or capable of getting rid of our biggest problem, Rule of Law. Airbending Lesson, Stroke of Midnight, Chaos Warp, Generous Gift. The biggest part of the deck is card draw. Laughing Mad, Ignite the Future, Demand Answers. Always cards with as few colored pips as possible to maximize the value we get out of Sami's mana cost reduction. Best are cards that create mana as well. Big Score, Inspired Tinkering, Path of the Pyromancer, even Coveted Jewel. These are all mana-positive draw spells, and in the case of Big Score and its other iterations, Inspired Tinkering and Coveted Jewel, they also give us more artifacts to use for cost reduction. Cost reduction best applied to X-cost card draw spells. Zenith Festival, Commune with Lava, March of Reckless Joy. If we have 5 artifacts and Sami in play, we can set the X of these cards to 5 without spending any mana. Zenith Festival is particularly nasty. It usually finds more artifacts and rituals, accelerating its own second cast. Keep in mind that all the stupid eggs and mana rocks are free. Oh, and we play a bunch of rituals, of course. Sieving Song and Desperate Ritual become great fun when they only cost 1 mana. But leading the charge is, of course, Mana Geysir, often winning the game as it resolves. All of these are best when played twice. Most of you are surely aware of Past in Flames, but let me tell you about Return the Past, an enchantment that gives all of our instants and sorceries flashback during our turn, which is absolutely fantastic. And then our last instant win button, the Endstone. I find it absolutely delightful that the Endstone is genuinely fantastic in this deck because I love Edge of Eternities and it's a cute flavor win. Our goal is simple. We hold off our opponents, make sure that nobody wins the game too quickly. Then we cast Sami and storm through our entire deck in a single turn. Along the way we find Reiterate and literally any ritual. This lets us create infinite mana, which we then use to infinitely reiterate Lightning Bolt or Kazu's Fury to kill our opponents. This strategy is brutally effective and has a giant flaw. We need Sami in play, and our opponents know that they can't let us do that. Going into the tournament, I had hoped that I would be able to catch my opponents off guard for at least a game or two, but no. In every match, everybody discussed and agreed that Sami must not resolve, and if they do, they must be immediately killed. And it didn't matter because of silence. Silence, revel in silence, and mandate of peace are what makes this deck work. Instead of just casting Sami and hoping that they resolve, we first force our opponent's hand with a silence. Removal is meaningless against silence, and if they counter it, then we can always re-evaluate. We sometimes still want to go for a win, or other times we just chill and go back to playing defense. Importantly, we didn't lose anything significant. We didn't spend 6 mana casting Sami and then need to spend 8 next turn. Just a 1 or 2 mana instant that is difficult to interact with and can easily be recurred. And if silence doesn't get countered, then we win. This deck is brutally effective. It had the best performance ever at one of our tournaments, winning 4 out of the 5 rounds. In retrospect, I would have liked to include Ghostfire Slice and Pull from Eternity, but other than that, I'm incredibly proud of this list. But please don't play this in regular games. I often have people asking what bracket the budget tournament decks are, and I find that difficult to answer. By intent, which is what brackets are supposed to measure, they are CEDH. Optimized decks built with no social consideration specifically to be played in a tournament environment. But of course, without access to free spells or fast mana, they are not actually CEDH. I usually describe them as bracket 4, powerful decks that can win quickly but are still somewhat limited. If you bring these to a regular Commander night, you will stomp and it won't be fun. Budget Commander is great, but best enjoyed against others playing the same. If you're interested in joining us for our next tournament, then keep an eye on the website. It'll be hosted at Deck, Dice and Dungeons in Gießen on the 14th of June. It's just $10 to participate, it's right next to the train station and lots of parking is also available. It's on a Sunday, so, if you're nearby, come hang out. It's fun. Our most recent budget tournament, the 11th, hosted on the 15th of March 2026, was won by Edric, Spymaster of Trest. Edric, Spymaster of Trest, is a 3-mana Simic 2/2. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of our opponents, its controller may draw a card. Budget Commander is fantastic because it's got a very diverse range of viable decks. This right here is a creature beatdown list. A problem most creature decks have is that they run out of resources. It's just easier to assemble a 2 or 3 card combo that wins the game than getting enough creatures on the board to work through 120 health. Not only does that cost tons of mana, but it also requires a huge amount of card draw. And that's what Edric fixes. His ability is a coastal piracy effect, one of the strongest card draw engines in all of Commander. To utilize it to the fullest, this deck plays a staggering 20 1-mana creatures. Most of them tiny flyers or unblockable stinkers with no other abilities. Some mana dogs are in there, a little bit of interaction, but really that's not the goal. We just need attackers on the board. That's why we also play 11 2-mana creatures. Grassalax, Illithid Scholar, is our only 3-mana creature and the top of our curve. Edric wants to come in quickly and wide, so that he can draw us 3 cards per turn as early as the 3rd turn of the game. And of course, he can draw way more than that if we have more creatures. That's a massive advantage. It does come with the downside of giving our opponents the opportunity to draw as well, but their decks won't be built for it. For every card they draw, we'll get 6. Earlier I mentioned that Budget Commander doesn't have free spells. This is true for the most part, but not entirely. There is a small selection of cards that could be played, but usually aren't because they're just too inefficient. Snapback, Foil, Commandeer. Either the effects aren't that strong or the pitch cost is too high. But when playing Edric, that's not a factor we need to worry about. Yes, pitching 2 cards to foil hurts, but we have 15 cards in hand and many of them are the same 1/1 unblockable creature. Who cares about them? I would rather counter whatever's going on over there. The interaction of this deck is very carefully chosen and honestly super cool. Rights of Refusal requires us to discard cards to counterspell, Unified Will needs us to have more creatures than our opponent, and Concerted Defense cares about our party size. All of these would be difficult to fit in most decks, but work great here. This deck operates in stages. Stage 1 is to flood the board with tiny evasive creatures. Stage 2 prioritizes survival and ramping. The ramping options are just as neat as the interaction. Harvest Season, One with Nature, Druid's Repository, Growing Rights of Itlamok, and Nature's Will. These all play incredibly well into our board state and give us the resources we need to play out our hand, get even more attackers on the board, and continue interacting. Finally, Stage 3. Actually winning the game. Usually the first step is to cast an extra turn. As we already discussed with Eluge, resource generation decks quickly spiral out of control when given an extra turn, and while Eluge did try to go infinite with them, this deck doesn't. It's not afraid to chain extra turns, since one of them often finds the next, but that's just a sequence towards the actual kill. We're trying to overrun with Beastmaster's Ascension, Biomass Mutation, or Preposterous Proportions. Keep in mind, we don't need Trample, everything has Evasion already, so we can focus on raw stats. If we ever stick one of these, our opponents are dead. That's just it, you're not living that. We are decidedly trying to win through combat damage. The extra turns are of course very powerful, but they aren't exactly necessary. Sometimes the overrun just hits by itself, and the chip damage from a million evasive stinkers coming at you every turn really shouldn't be underestimated. Sometimes people just die even without any big plays. The creator and player of this deck had brought it to a whole bunch of budget tournaments, always iterating on it until he finally managed to pull out a victory. I always love seeing that. People that are convinced that their idea is good enough and working on it until they've accomplished their goal. Although, admittedly, I am more of a brewer. I build new decks every tournament. You might remember my Volo Omniscience deck I talked about a little while ago. I played that in this same tournament, and I actually made it to the finals with the best score out of everyone. And then, unfortunately, I couldn't claim the trophy because I may or may not have mulliganed down to 5 due to a lack of lands, and then immediately drew my Omniscience. Oops. Look, that was always a risk with the deck. Oops. I have to complain though. The other players at the table, look, what I did, I'm like, look, here's my Omniscience. I'm not gonna be doing shit this game. And they're like, good. And then they killed my command. And it's just like, no, we do not care that you can't do shit. Like, this is not gonna be a reason for us to give you a chance. We're gonna make sure you don't do anything. And it worked. I didn't do anything. So they got me. But I thought that was so funny. So mean too. Anyways, sorry. I'm already working on my deck for the next tournament, although it's definitely a bit of a construction side. Budget Commander is a brewer's paradise because everything is always changing. Old decks need to be updated to fit current trends, and new set releases always bring injections of new cards. Stock Up is playable right now because of the Secrets of Strixhaven bottle sheet, which is very exciting. It's a cool card. There's also just the fact that the format is slow enough that you can do so much. You can do so many different things. Just look at the decks that won the tournaments. There are so many different ideas and lists in there. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love it. It's so fun. It's so cool. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to check out the Patreon. Support me directly. That would be fantastic. That would go a really long way. Also, check out the website, budgetcommander.de. It's entirely free, like as in there's no ads on it or anything. I don't make money off of it. I'm just sharing information. And I think y'all might like what you find on there, right? Because there's deck lists and all of the shenanigans. I am already working on my next budget deck. I've already started testing it a bit. I had a silly idea, and then I tested it, and it worked so much better than I thought it would, that now I am revising my silly idea to hopefully be a little less silly. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm sharing it ahead of time this time. I mean, the Water deck did great. Got me to the finals. I did really, really well. Just the finals I didn't end up winning. But anyways, next tournament on the 14th of June. In case you are in the nearby area and you want to come join, feel free. I would appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.